Hi, gardening friends. Here we are again, meeting with Keith Edwards from KE Landscape Consultant to answer some questions that have come through. So I'm just going to try and join Keith. So hang in there, everyone. Fingers crossed. It says joined. Waiting for Keith to pop up. You go.
Here we are. What's going on now?
Where
We're
are
up the wrong
you?
way again. We're up the wrong way.
Oh, there we go.
There we are. We're right now.
Oh dear, how are you?
I'm really well, and you, Joe?
Good, good,
Yeah.
good. Exciting times in the garden.
Oh, it is. It's a great time of the year. Getting all the good bits into the garden and watching your beautiful winter crops coming along nicely, which is great.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
And it feels like spring here. It's like warming up already. It's like we've been still getting 25 degrees plus in Forbes.
Yeah. Well, that's about what we've had here. I mean, we had 26 yesterday. There's no rain. We might get a little bit of a shower today, which would be good. So, yeah, fingers
Good,
crossed.
good. And been loving your podcast. So on Muddy Boots, you can find you every Tuesday. I need to put a plug in for that.
Fantastic.
With you and Elizabeth, always writing lots of tips. So thank you for doing that for us.
It's a pleasure. We want everyone to succeed, Joe. You know that.
I do, and that's why we're doing
Yeah.
this. This for the gardeners to succeed, and that's really the only reason we're doing it, to share the gardening love. And obviously yourself, 40 years plus in the garden.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to join a rookie and a guru. And I've never asked this before, like what got you into gardening. I know this is a Q&A, so this has just been spontaneous. Where did it all come from for you?
My mum and dad never grew anything really. Mum grew some flowers, and when that happened, she was absolutely over the moon. But they were very, very time poor. You know, we weren't a very wealthy family. Mum and dad had to work both, you know, during the week. Dad worked basically 5.5 days a week, so you know we didn't get to see a lot of each other. But my uncle was a brilliant gardener. He could grow just about anything, and he had to because his father, when he came back from the war, was very, very ill. So he used to go out shooting rabbits and sell rabbits and skins to the tanneries and all that. And he had to grow vegetables because they couldn't have survived otherwise. So he was brilliant in that respect. And that's probably where that side of things has rubbed off on me. I just loved his passion for being able to grow things. And you know what he's missed out on, you know, with the way things have changed today, would have been, you know, he would have just absolutely adored this. And so he's in my heart and my mind all the time. But after that, no, it was just a natural progression into garden, you know, looking after huge gardens. You know, when I first started out, I used to be the curator at Toorak College, which is a private school here in Mount Eliza. And I had 7 staff, you know, involved with that. And then, you know, everything just progressed years after that until, you know, here I am now.
Here you are with us, Henley's Rustics little community.
Yeah, past retiring age, but you know, I hate golfing, I hate bowls, I hate fishing, I hate just about everything that involves, you know, pastime except gardening.
Yeah,
and
you know,
it's
just it's in your blood. Yeah. And it's just amazing, and sharing that about your uncle. And I wasn't even aware of that. And you actually did a podcast last week about being time poor and saying just how your parents are time poor and the way you can still garden even when you're a bit time poor. So it's great you had that exposure with your uncle. And like I read, Dad put this book of stories together from Ungary people telling their stories, and they had to be 80 years old to write their story. So it was really capturing back in those days.
Yeah.
And people had like orchards and vineyards and growing veggies with the little resources they had back then in the Depression, and they had to just grow as much as what they could on the land. And yeah, like seeing those photos, and even Kevin across the road, he showed me how his family used to grow tomatoes in these huge rows, and they had to build trenches so they capture all the water as possible. And it's just fascinating. And we're in such a privileged era. Here we are with our raised garden beds, and we can put the quality soil that we want in it,
Yep.
and we can, like we're just so far advanced. So it's amazing that you've seen like the whole process of how things were done back in the day to where we are now.
Exactly. And that's been a pleasure. It really has. It's just been a great thing to have done.
Well, that's really lovely. Oh, thanks for sharing that. I think that's important to know, like a part of our story. But continuing on with the questions, we actually had 12 questions come in this time round.
That's all right.
So I've got them. We'll just start shooting them through them. Okay. And I've got some resources around me that I think you might bring up in the conversation. So I've come prepared.
Good girl.
Actually, first question's from my friend Sarah, SJ Photography here in Forbes. How often should you test your soil?
Look, if you did it once a year, that's plenty. If you're going to be reintroducing something into the soil, like compost, check the compost before you put it in.
Yeah, if you're going to use a different brand for the first time. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, but even if you don't use a different brand, test it anyway. Because, as I pointed out on a couple of posts that we've done, if it's coming from green waste and you've got no control over that sometimes, you can be getting a soil that's going to have a high pH or a low pH. And so before you put that into your garden bed, you want to make sure that it's where it should be. Which is 7. Look for the soil pH to be 7. And those test kits aren't very expensive. I don't know what they are, about $18-19, but they last for years and years and years. So they're really good in that respect.
And that's what.
So yeah,
and we've spoken about before. Like Clyde Compost does that really well. That he puts it on each batch he does. He has the pH level on the bag.
Exactly.
Yeah. So testing, because I've seen people do experiments online. I think Tim, I forget his handle, but he even tested the same company with 2 different bags from 2 different batches, and the vegetables grew so differently because it's not consistent.
That's right, and that's where you need to have a really good source. I got a post from someone in Queensland saying that he's a landscaper. He uses a compost from a company there called Living Farms. And I believe that's available in New South Wales as well.
Okay.
And he raised by that particular product. I've asked them to send me a sample down because I want to have a look at it. I want to test it.
Yeah.
And if it's as good as they say it is, I'll recommend it, because I'm always looking for some products that we can sort of say, well, it's available.
And that's like how chock-a-block, and that's one of the questions is obviously you introduced. That's where I first heard chock-a-block. And it's a compost, it's certified organic, and so that's great that you can get that when topping up your garden beds, knowing that's reliable. And Clyde Compost, he's starting to get his out in more outlets. He actually is in contact with me at the moment. He's going to send me some bags to test it out. Obviously connecting through you, thank you, Keith. Yep. So we're just seeing how we can get it to little old Forbes. But yeah, they're doing great stuff as well. So yeah, chock-a-block. So the question was where how and where can they buy it? So I've just seen it in Bunnings so far, but I heard Mona Vane Gardens in Warren, Jess, she's got it in like her local hardware shop. So there must be branching out.
The easiest thing to do will be to go to Nutrog's website and find out where the closest stockist is to your place. I know that they're expanding really rapidly. Yeah. So it will grow, and it really will become more available in lots and lots of places.
It's
for
huge
sure
for us, like to have like a certified organic and like reliable, and like you said, it's not green waste. No. It's come from other material. Like
it comes from their huge farm out there, which we're sort of hoping. Muddy Boots is sort of hoping that we'll be out there probably maybe in August to have a look at
awesome.
Yeah, so that'll be really good to go over there and have a look at it and do some posts on that as well.
Beautiful. Well, that answers that question as well then. This is from Sarah, again from SJ Photography. How can I give my citrus trees the best chance at producing fruit? And you just touched on this last week about maintaining fruit trees as well. So if anyone wants to go to I think it was last week's about pour time, you touched on the different variety and how to prune them. So that's another good place to go.
Another post to have a look at. Look, the thing about understanding citrus trees is they're evergreen. They'll be, most of them will be in full fruit right now. So that's a very demanding thing on the plant. So they really need to have as much goodness available to them. And what people need to understand is that if you're going to feed a fruit tree, you've got to feed it in the correct manner and the correct place. So if you were to think about it, if you were to be able to get a product like Nutrog's Gigantic, that is a ripper product. So Get Gigantic by Nutrog is a great product for your citrus trees. And the way to sort of think about doing it is if you picked up a handful of that particular product and threw it up in the air and threw it over the top of the tree, and it hits all the leaves, and then if you were to put the hose on, you would see that all that fertilizer you've just thrown over the tree is going to run off the leaves and hit the ground at the drip line of the tree. And the drip line of the tree is where the feeder roots from the trunk of the tree are sitting out to, because when it rains, they've got access to the moisture straight away, but they're also going to have access to the food. So always put your fertilizer around the drip line of the tree, never around the trunk, because there are no root systems there that are going to be picking up nutrients. That makes sense?
I love that, because I actually know this because I listen to your podcast. I don't have any fruit trees, but it's always good to take note of these things. So yeah, you like your mind just thinks around the tree trunk, but actually the root system just goes so much further out.
That's right. And it's the same with every plant, even capsicums and eggplants and tomatoes. You don't put it around the actual trunk of the tree. You've got to put it out to where the edge of the leaves are, and that's it. But yeah, that's a great product. Don't go using any synthetic fertilizer. There are synthetic fertilizers that are available that for citrus trees, and they're generally a granular-looking fertilizer, and they really are not to be used.
I'm just going to be a bit sun smart, and move into the shade. I was starting to fry. Yep. Okay, beautiful. And because also when you are getting a new fruit tree, for example, it's going to take a few years to start producing.
Exactly.
So what do you say, 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 is pretty good. I had a follower ask me about growing mangosteens here in Melbourne, and I explained to them that they like a particular temperature, nothing below 5 degrees, which is pretty difficult down here. So you can plant them up against a brick wall, and that's a heat sink, and that'll radiate warmth back out to the plant. And he said, well, how long will it take to get fruit off? And I said, well, you'll be looking at least 10 to 15 years. So it's much easier to go and buy them if they're available somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So this is from Ros Claire. One thing everyone should plant right now.
Well, what, in vegetable wise?
Well, just I guess anything. So I guess let's go veggie first.
All right. So anything in the brassica line needs to go in now. So anything brassicas, cabbages, cauliflowers, broccoli, silver beet, spinach, all these sorts of things you want to be putting into the garden bed now. We had a beautiful meal last night with a tortilla as the base. And then we had eggs and freshly harvested leaf vegetables out of the garden, all chopped up and mixed through it, and it was absolutely magnificent. So they're the things that you really need to be thinking about putting in. I saw a post done by a guy that's got an enormous amount of followers the other day, and he was talking about putting in Brussels sprout seedlings. I just shook my head.
Too late.
Oh, God. And he said, and I'm going to do a follow-up crop. I thought to myself, that follow-up crop is going to be next year.
Yeah.
You're never going to get Brussels sprouts, so don't even bother looking at Brussels sprouts.
Because you said previously, you really need to start them in February at the latest.
They've got to go into the soil as seedlings in February.
Yeah.
All right.
And you purchased yours this time around?
Well, I did, but I also grew some, but I wasn't happy with the way they grew.
Yeah.
However, I did put some of those into the garden bed where the Brussels sprouts are, and they have absolutely taken off.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And for me, I haven't planted any leafy greens, but I've got my beetroot in, and you can eat the leaves of that.
Oh,
so
you
that's
can.
that's my little get around getting my leafy greens, because
absolutely.
Look at them. That's all beetroot.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yes, and so root veggies, you can still do your beetroot now, your carrots, onions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah, herbs as well.
Herbs are great, yeah. In terms of plants, apart from vegetables, um, if you're going to be putting in fruit trees, this is a great time of the year to do it. But I'd be waiting probably another couple of months,
Okay.
because if you can get fruit trees that are bare rooted, you're going to get so much more value for a plant of a much bigger size. And if you know how to prune them back as you've planted them, they'll be fine. So bare rooted fruit trees are a great thing to be thinking about putting in the garden now.
Okay, beautiful. There we go, Roz. So another question from Roz: best way to build out big spaces, fill gaps with little money. So I asked her more about this. She's actually got some acres. I think she's got a lot of acres. So she was ways to fill in big gaps if you just got a big open space. Some low cost effective ways of filling gaps.
Probably, well, this without fully understanding what she's meaning by that. You can fill out gaps by putting in say annuals, for instance. If you were to go and buy a whole heap of annual seeds and just go out there and cast them out there now, they will actually germinate, and they'll germinate to the stage of having what's called a rosette. And then as the cold kicks in, they will stop growing. But that rosette's already there, ready for springtime to come on. So they are great fillers. They're really, really good fillers. So things like cosmos are fantastic, for those. But any sort of annual plant is just a great thing to put in as cheap, effective fillers, for later on. If you're going to be doing big areas of say garden beds, you really need to have a bit of forward planning on that. So you would mark out a big area, and then you could go out and buy not rootstock but tube stock, for instance.
Yeah,
That's a great, cheap, effective way of getting bang for your buck, is by buying tube stock. As long as you do a bit of research and you know just how big those plants are going to get, and always plant them in groups, 3s and 5s of the one plant, to give it a bit of bulk and a bit of character and a bit of structure to the garden. So that's another great way of doing it as well.
And for me, like I found, I'm probably not at the scale that Roz is talking about, but out in my backyard, I have like a garden bed that goes all the way around the edge of my fence line, and I tried growing plants into the ground, but it was just so clay, and plants just kept dying. So in the end, I just bought one of our we didn't buy it because my dad makes them, but one of our little garden beds as a display one with flowers and things, and that way you could put the soil in that's going to actually be successful.
Yes.
Like I find sometimes, like the actual top soil in your ground isn't necessarily great for growing plants.
No, it's not. And that's why why you've really got to be thinking about adding as much organic material to that as you possibly can. If you've got a very, very heavy soil, you can actually grow cheaply green manure crops.
Yeah.
You can buy those that'll do big areas very, very cheaply, and you sow that as a crop. And as they start to come into flower, you go through there with a brush cutter and just just smash it all down to the ground, and that will then act as a mulch. But the roots of those plants have gone down into the soil, and they've broken up the plant, up the soil a bit. They're providing nutrients for worms and microbes and all the rest of the thing when they're dead. So that improves your soil's capacity to hold more goodness and to break it up and make it a productive area.
I need to, and I have heard about that, but I haven't really explored it. So that's an area I can look into a bit more.
Years ago, there was the CSIRO came up with a product called Clever Clover. All right. Now, clover is a legume, so it takes out of the air nitrogen out of the air and fixes it into the soil. And Clever Clover, as it comes into spring, just totally dies. Yeah. So that you've got this beautiful mulch that you can then dig into the soil, or leave it there as a mulch and pull it around and plant into that. And that's a great way of product getting so much bang for your buck for your soil. Clever Clover, it's a ripper.
Yeah, okay, that's good. All right, hope that helps, Roz. Okay, so this is Jess. So they're in Forbes as well, of my friend Jess. So she's Rick's Timber Works. So actually, this mud kitchen behind me, actually they built that, but they're actually starting to build greenhouses. So which is fantastic. They do cubbies and all sorts of things. They're so fantastic. But Jess's question is, please tell me the advantages of a greenhouse.
You can grow so much all year round.
Yeah.
If you've got a greenhouse, you can grow tomatoes all year round, capsicums all year round, eggplants all year round, and it just means that you have got an environment that is conducive to growing things very quickly and then getting them out of there and into the soil. So it's a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things about a greenhouse or a hothouse, whatever you want to call it. It means that you've got control over what those plants are going to be doing. So a lot of people, will grow things in there that they can't otherwise. Now down here in Victoria, in my little hothouse, I've got lots of ginger growing at the moment, which is now coming towards the end, and I'll be harvesting those. I've got galangal, I've got turmeric. Now they're all things that you couldn't grow just sticking outside, because they need that environment where you've got trapped air that's warm and it's humid. You go and put the hose on, and then you've just created this beautiful humid environment for those particular plants. But if I wanted to, I could grow tomatoes all year round in that little greenhouse. Not a problem at all.
And I've seen
a great thing.
You've set yours up with like heat mats and sprinkling systems. Like you can really take it to the next level.
Yeah, well, it is. And none of that's expensive, Joe.
Yeah.
The sprinkler system might have cost me $25.
Yeah.
The heat mats are as cheap as chips, and I've got great big ones, but they're not very expensive. You can get online and have a look at Ryset heat mats.
Yeah.
And you'll find a supplier for those, and they are just a brilliant product. They really are. Just open so much up for growing things quickly, and then for longer periods during the year.
And we've because I've got the mini ones, and can you even see them? Where are they?
Yep.
Oh, where is it? Over there.
Yep.
So it's a little wooden one. You can see just like over there.
Yep.
So I tried to grow seeds in it when it was still hot, and it fried the seeds.
That's the
So
problem.
you can actually have too much heat. Yeah.
You can. Yeah. So you've got to monitor it on a regular basis. That's the whole thing. If it's hot outside, you walk outside and you go and hop in the hothouse. It's going to be 10 degrees hotter in there. So you've got to have a window that you can open, or a door that you can open a little bit. I made the mistake the other day of leaving the door open because we've got this beautiful hot weather, and I had 2 trays of little seedlings just germinated, so they've only got their embryonic leaves. And I went back the next day, and they'd all gone. A bloody bird had got in there and had just broken off every single seedling that had come out. So I've had to totally resow that again.
They're little, in my backyard, there's birds that they think it's funny, like, oh, Joey's going to love this. Yeah. And they're in there pulling out all my seedlings. The recycled garden, got to run. Thanks for the advice. Oh, that's no problem. We'll put this as a repost so everyone can see it anyway. So it's going to be a bit of trial and error then, isn't it? Because everyone's glass house in different parts, different states, and all that. So is it
in the middle of summer down here, I've got to put shade cloth over the top of mine. Just to keep that direct heat of the sun going through, and that works perfectly effectively.
I think that we could even talk more about this in a different time, because I think we can explore this a lot further, because a lot of people do have greenhouses, and especially if you're new to gardening, it might be a bit overwhelming. But we'll leave it there for that. Hopefully that helps, Jess, and I think we can touch on it more. So starting out, what are some books or resources you would recommend?
Look, the Diggers Club's got some fabulous books that you can actually buy.
Yeah.
And they've got a huge range of terrific gardening books. And if you buy the Diggers books, they are set up for Australian conditions. They're not going to be reversed like over in the northern hemisphere. They are designed for Australian conditions. And some of the books are so good that they've got inside them. They've got the So What When calendar. So you open up the cover, and the actual cover is the So What When calendar, and you just line up your environment to that particular spot, and it'll tell you when you can sow any vegetable you like on there. So I recommend the Diggers Club for those books. They're just terrifically rich.
What about have you read the Yates one?
Yeah, I have, and I sort of find that the Yates one is not as well written, not as conclusive in its practice of the available types of vegetables that say the Diggers Club have, because the Diggers Club's got so many heirloom vegetables. That's what you want to be growing, because
Yeah.
you want to be able to save the seeds and grow them. So I go on that particular facet as
Yeah.
well. I mean, Yates are a huge company. They're owned by a paint company. So they're not the little company that used to be.
Yeah, okay. So I love, as a beginner, this is what I really loved is subscribing to all the newsletters, like the Seed Collection,
Yep,
for example, and
brilliant.
the Diggers Club. They send you newsletters each month, and it gives you like what to sow
So
now.
when
And
in your area, yep.
yeah, so, and that's just, little quick snapshots I found really good. Even like sometimes just getting like the organic magazine or like a Gardening in Australia magazine if you want to have a
Yep.
little flick. Obviously follow Keith's page because you're going to learn everything you need to know at Keith's page. Get your daily tips. And yeah, I think me and a lot of other people have learned majority of our things from you, Keith.
That's
So
good.
okay, perfect. So Diggers Club, and they've been
Mm-hmm.
around, and you worked for them as well.
Yeah, they've been around for a long time, and I was 12 years for the Diggers Club, so and that was a great opportunity for me to learn so many different things of people who worked for the Diggers Club, who had just the most incredible amount of knowledge
Yeah.
in specific areas. It was great to pick their
Like
brains on certain
I
things.
do to yours.
Yeah,
Pick, pick, pick.
that's
Yeah.
what I want. I want people to
Yeah.
say to me, look, how do I go about doing this? Well, try doing it this way, and that's it. It's just a great opportunity to to learn. Yeah, the Diggers Club's a great resource. It really is.
Beautiful. Oh, I've just missed another one from Roz. Every vegetable garden needs. So I asked her a little bit more. What did she mean by that? Like resources, tools. Like basically, if someone was going to start out gardening, and this is probably a bigger topic than just this right now, but everything that you'll need to get into the gardening, tools, resources.
Yeah.
What do we all need?
Right. If I was going to get someone to start off in gardening, the first thing I'd do is I'd give them some quality compost. That's the first thing. The second thing that I'd recommend is a broad fork or a prepping fork from FD Ryan.
Right there.
Yeah, you got it.
It's so
Have you
fun to
used
use.
it?
I love using it. It's so therapeutic.
It is so good, isn't it? And
So good.
and when you push it down that deep and you get those tines all the way down into that soil, and then just rock it backwards and forwards, you're getting air, you're getting compost, you're getting everything deep down to that soil, and that's where all the goodness lives. It's down where the roots of the plants need to get down to. So it's all there.
Yes, and it's like $150. It's so cheap,
Oh
and you just can't do that with your
no,
hands. Like this just gets in and gives it a really good
yeah,
working.
and it's not just for vegetable beds. It's also for lawns. It's also going around fruit trees. I've just had a job that I've done a specification for down on the Mornington Peninsula, where they've got existing trees that were put into the ground, and they're just stunted, useless trees. So the landscaper's got himself a broad fork, and he went all the way around the drip line of the tree, really worked that down, and then he put compost and lignite humate down into that soil. And this year, those trees have just doubled in size. And so it's that cheap and that effective a way of really improving the soil. It's just amazing. The next thing that I would suggest people look at is a quality pair of secateurs, not a piece of crap from bloody Bunnings.
And the reason that we've been connected in life is because I won these. I won these from your site.
Yeah.
I went in a little competition of yours, and that's how we connected. And you can get these also from where you get the prepping fork.
Yeah.
Are they on the same site?
No, they're not. No, the prepping fork is FD Ryan, and the importer of those particular tools is Riceset.
Yeah.
So if you just Google Lowy pruning pruners or secateurs, there's a company called Forestry Tools.
Oh, yeah.
If you get onto Forestry Tools site, you can order them from them, and they are really reasonably priced. But those secateurs, every single part of those secateurs can be replaced at some stage. And they're a beautiful ergonomic secateurs that will cut through much thicker timber than a bypass pruner that will. They'll last so much easier. They're just a great tool. They really are. So always buy quality. If you can't afford it, wait or ask for it for a birthday present or a Christmas present or something else.
Or win it.
Or win it. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so we got compost, good tools. So the prepping fork, secateurs. Yep. And obviously, like if you're doing a raised garden bed, we're deciding whether you're going to do a standard garden bed or a wicking bed. Yep. And you had the episode last week on Muddy Boots about if you time pour. So the wicking bed is a good time pour option because you don't need a water and it's less uses less water. And yeah, so working that out. So anything else? And then the moon calendar.
The moon calendar. That's probably the first thing I would have suggested because that will set you up for so much success in gardening. To be able to just line up the new moon. And work everything else out from that. Yeah, it is brilliant. And that's $15 worth. That's going to last. If you look after it, it'll last for 10, 20 years. Mine's about 20 years old, I suppose, and it still works really, really effectively. So that's a great tool because it tells you when to do things in your garden, so you're not working yourself to death. For instance, it tells you when to prune. And my backyard here, I've got miles of hedges. So I'm not going to go out there now and prune them because it's the high growth period. I'll be doing it next week. So you prune it, you do all your gardening according to that moon calendar, and you will have success. That even this time of the year, we sowed seeds on the 1st of May, and they were up by the 3rd. They were gone by the 5th. After the birds got in there and cleaned them out. So, we still got in there and I've re-sown those.
Within that time period, yes.
Yeah, so we're in the time period.
Yes.
And if you can see a result for your hard work really effectively, then you say to yourself, gee whiz, how lucky am I? It just works. Excuse me.
Nadji, she's Nadji in Glagenbone actually. She's up above Dubbo. I see you don't have any protection for the white butterfly on your bed. Is it? Oh, I do. No, these are my brassicas here.
Yeah.
Very, very protected still because I still are getting white butterfly. But all these, the brassicas, the white butterfly just don't want to touch them, so they're not netted.
No.
Yes.
You just got to, and I mean this time now is the time for aphids as well.
Yes.
And aphids will get through those nets.
Yes.
Even 2 mil micron, they will crawl through those bloody things. They're a mongrel. So always keep your protection up, right up until we're getting really cold weather. I mean, days below say 15, 16 degrees, and then that white butterfly won't be around then. But if we get one day up at 20, 21 degrees, bang, they're out.
So do you put only on some veggies, brassicas, so your broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, but all the other ones aren't brassicas, so the white butterfly just attacks them. But aphids will attack most things under the in the leaves and under the leaves and where the moisture is.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Little buggers. So things that you need for starting out. So we got your good compost, your garden bed, your tools, anything else.
Your moon calendar.
And your moon calendar.
And also a pH test.
And your pH test. I left all my little resources over in the sun.
All right.
Okay.
But you can buy those from any garden supplies. They're not very expensive and they last for years.
Exactly.
So that's a really effective thing to have.
Because what is that? Anything above like 7, 8, your vegetables are just not going to grow.
And the same applies. If it gets too low.
It's got to be right. Otherwise,
below 5, they're not going to pick up a lot of the micro elements that should be in the soil. They're not going to have access to those. And the same thing happens above say 7 and 8, or say 8. Is that you're not going to have the minerals available for those plants either because they're just locked out.
And then
so you've got to keep your pH.
Yeah.
You've got to keep your pH around 6 to 7. That's the optimum growing range.
So if you get your
and if it,
compost right in the first place, it's going to help.
exactly. Yep.
And then you've mentioned that before. If it is too high, to bring it down, you would put in what?
Look, if you've got a pH of between 8 and 9, then you need to utilize what's called sulfur. And most of the sulfur that's available is in a pellet form, and it is not water soluble. So you can't put it into a watering can and then just go out and spread it over, because it's not going to work. What has to happen is you've got to apply it to a moist soil, and the reason for that is that moist soil will have microbes living in it, and then you apply the sulfur into that moist soil, and the microbes actually turn that sulfur into sulfuric acid.
Right.
All right, and acid will drop the pH really, really quickly. But even so, it'll still take between 6 to 8 weeks before that pH is down. And you've got to follow the recommendations on the pH kit to tell you how much that you apply. You can't just go out and just tip a whole lot in, because you're going to set yourself up for failure big time. So always read the instructions.
And we did discuss this first. If you're setting up your garden beds, you're most likely going to get soil from a landscape because you need big volume. Test it first before you go and purchase
before you
it.
go and get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Research.
Nick
Patterson, this was really cute. No question, but I love when you and Keith do these videos. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay, how do you use autumn leaves in the garden? So this is Sutherland Jen. So Jen, she doesn't have a compost. Can you spread them directly into the garden bed?
Look, you can. Absolutely. Just if you were going to be putting them straight onto your garden bed, what I would do is I would spread them out over your grass, and then I would run the lawnmower over it.
Yes, I've seen
break them down.
That. Yes,
break
I
them
do
down
that with mine. It's therapeutic, and it breaks them right down. Even if you are composting them, I do that anyway.
Yep. And then what you need to do is you need to observe. And what I mean by that is, if you've got deciduous trees in your garden, have a wander around where they've blown into a garden bed, or where you've put them, and have a look at them in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, because that's going to tell you something really, really important. Now, if you've got say pear trees, or you've got an oak leaf, they make fantastic compost, but they break down very slowly because they're dry and they don't contain any calcium. So if you want to break oak leaves down really, really quickly, once you've spread them out, go and get some calcium carbonate, which is just lime, and sprinkle a handful over the top of them, and then give it a water. And I'm telling you now, that will increase the composting process really, really quickly, and it makes brilliant compost, believe me. And if you don't believe me, go and walk in a rainforest. Yeah. Because that's what that's all about, is that exchange of leaf litter and twigs and things like that, and moisture.
And is this also in veggie beds, or you're talking about more your main beds?
No, you can put it into veggie beds, but it makes a great mulch over the top of a veggie bed. Yeah. So if you've got lots and lots of leaves and you've got lots of veggie beds, put your seedlings in, put your mulch over the top with your leaves, and then when you put your seedlings, just pull it back, plant them in, and then push it back around them. But make sure you put a little bit of lime onto the oak leaves and so forth. Yeah.
All right, there you go, Jen. Okay, perfect. Okay, our friend Sal Pittman, our spring is short to really get seeds growing before the summer heat. A heat mat's worth it.
Absolutely, Sally. You betcha they really are. They're great, because a lot of plants require bottom heat in order to get the germination up and going really, really quickly. So, and it mainly affects plants that you would not direct sow into the ground. So you really need to start them off in little, paper cups or even seed trays and so forth. And if you've got bottom heat, that will help the germination and the root development so much quicker. So they're great. And they're not expensive. As I said, they are not expensive.
I have one little one. I have one little one, and I've never used it before.
Yep.
But that's great. Like when, like you're going to do your tomatoes, for example, and it's still like cold, you can get them
Yeah,
going early.
exactly. I mean, we're going to start sowing our tomatoes in August down here.
Yeah.
And if we didn't use the heat mat, they won't be seedlings ready to go in, for another month and a half. So heat mats are fabulous.
Tomatoes are very slow germinating. They eventually did come about, but it took a long time initially. If I had a heat mat,
It would have been much quicker
and a
Yeah.
better success
Yeah.
rate.
I mean, look, I expect my tomatoes to be up in 3 days with a heat mat.
Mine took like a
Yep.
month.
Yeah, no, not at all, love. I'm telling you now. You try the heat mat next time.
Yes, I will. I might have to get more than that one little one. So I had
Get the big one.
I had 12 tomato bushes, and I'm going to be doing the same again because I just was in tomato heaven. It was just great.
Yeah. Nothing better.
Any ideas on how to rat-proof raised garden beds? And this is Lover of the Divine. So I asked her what are her garden beds made of, and they're in IBC tanks.
Right.
Yeah. So rats.
Probably one of the best things she can do is actually net them.
Yeah.
That would be one thing. Look, in every single garden, in every single city, all the way around Australia, there's going to be masses of rats.
Yeah.
And they can cause enormous amounts of damage in a garden to your fruit trees, to your seedlings, to your tomatoes, to the works. So I actually use a wax block.
Oh yeah. Yep. So they can't. So it's slippery.
No, not so it's slippery. So it doesn't rot away quickly.
Oh, I thought you meant they couldn't climb up. Like they just slip right off.
No. So I use a wax block. And if you put it, if you've got one of those cages that she's talking about, you can put it right down the bottom where nothing can get to it except a rat.
Right.
And just monitor it. That's the best thing to do. So when that one's gone, go and put another one down.
Okay.
And just keep on. And that's all I do in my own garden here. Is I use wax blocks for rat bait.
And so what do they do? Eat it, and then it fills up their stomach with.
And it kills them. Yeah.
There you go. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, you can get them from any of the hardware places, and there's lots and lots of different brands of them. But if you get there's one that's called the Big Cheese, and that's the one that I use. That I found that to be incredibly effective. And as I said, you put it out somewhere where you can see it. You can see it's being nibbled on, and when it's gone, replace it, because whatever you've killed, there'll be someone else somewhere else coming into your backyard to take over its space.
It's not the bird, it's the rats. If it's not the rats, it's the aphids.
Yep. Everything's
It's all worth it. It is all worth it. And you get better at beating the pests. Like, you get better every year.
Yep.
Just wave. Jess, we've answered your question earlier on about the glass houses, the greenhouses. So you can jump back onto the replay. Okay, this came from Millie. This is a bit of just a fun question. So Millie asked, who would you have dinner with? 3 people, past or present?
Yep. Did you hear Millie on Muddy Boots last night?
I haven't. No, yep. I'm delayed. I didn't hear it last night. It's on my to-do list. I'm a bit behind.
We had her on last night, and she's just an absolute darling. 3 people, right? First one would be a chap by the name of Charlie Watt.
Okay.
Who was the drummer for the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
He's such a laid-back, cool guy.
Yeah.
He was in the biggest band the world has ever known. And after a tour, after a night out in the tour, he'd go home to his wife and just have a lovely family evening. So I love that. That attitude of his.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was such a brilliant drummer. I just love him. The second person would be Edna Walling.
Okay.
Who is Australia's greatest female landscape designer.
Yeah, right.
I love her. She sits on my shoulder on every time I get on a drawing board to do a garden design, because she's got so many things that she says to me that help me produce what I can in terms of great looking gardens. She's just got so many beautiful sayings. One in particular is, she says, a garden you can see all at once is not much of a garden. Because if I can stand in one spot and have a look at your whole backyard, why would I go out there and have a look at it?
Yeah, explore.
But if you've got trees and shrubs and garden rooms and all the rest of it. You've got a journey.
Yeah, I love
That's
that.
just one. Yeah, just one of the beautiful things. Another one that she said was, and this relates back to her time, but it's still applicable today. She says a Hills hoist will have its own room because you don't want to be walking out the backyard and you got your knickers flying around. So you put it in a space where it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, my mum hates that. She always used to put them. She puts them on the inside of the line just in case any visitors come.
Yeah. And the third person, and people are going to say, oh, I can see why you wanted her, would be Marilyn Monroe. And I'll tell you a little fact about Marilyn Monroe. Apart from being an absolute magnificent-looking woman, if we think about her intelligence, so
Yeah.
Albert Einstein, all right, that brilliant mathematician, Albert Einstein had an IQ of 160.
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn Monroe had an IQ of 168.
There you go.
So she was such a brilliant talent. If she wasn't one of the greatest actresses, she could have been and done just about anything. And I would love to have explored that side of the conversation with her. If you weren't into acting, what else would you? What's your other passions? What could you have done? When you think about Albert Einstein, he's got a lesser IQ, and look what he achieved. I just think that's just a beautiful thing. So
I love that. Imagine all of them in the one dinner party.
Oh, it'd be great.
I love that. Thanks for that, Millie. That was a fun question. Okay, so that's everyone that submitted questions. Now I just have my 2 quick questions.
Go.
Okay, so, and I've left it for this because I'm sure other people have had the same questions. Why don't you direct sow above ground veggies? And I'm asking this question is because I did an experiment where I direct sowed my broccoli and cauliflower, and it's going so much better. It outgrew and did so much better than the pots. So why don't we direct sow above ground veggies? What's the story behind that? Because this is mine.
Yep.
Direct sown, and they just hit off and ran.
Okay. So the reason that bed is working so well for what you've done in terms of the sowing is you have created a micro environment.
Oh, nice.
So you've got a raised bed. You've got a raised bed, and you think about your temperatures out there now. Every one of my raised beds outside has got a thermometer in it.
Yeah.
And I can tell exactly what that soil temperature is in every one of those beds. Now, if you were to put a thermometer in your bed, you would find it would be much higher than if you stuck it in the ground. So there's the first thing. So if you were to put some seeds in that bed and then sow some seeds in the ground, the germination rate is going to be so much different because you've got applied heat there all the time. You've got basically a heat map.
Yeah.
But if you were to go out and sow tomato seeds in those beds in August this year, they are not going to germinate.
Yeah.
Now, so the seed companies will tell you on every single packet whether you should sow direct, and things like peas, beans, carrots, parsnips, anything with a root vegetable should be sown direct because they're generally, except for carrots, they're a much bigger seed. And things like your much finer seeds, like your broccoli, your cabbages, your collies. Unless you've got your environment out there where you've had lots and lots of warm days, you really need to create that micro environment in a controlled environment. That's what I was probably going to say there. So you will get success, but you won't get success all year round. And if you're missing a month, then you're really setting yourself up for a bit of failure. To give you an idea, I purchased all my Brussels sprouts plants from a company over in Werribee, QSP Seedlings, and they all arrived. And I had to buy other plants because I had to have a certain dollar value.
Yeah.
So I had to spend extra money to get other things. So I bought some cauliflowers. Well, if you were planting cauliflowers now, you're not going to be eating those for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But I planted the collies at the same time that I planted the Brussels sprouts, and we've already eaten a swag of cauliflowers. All right, so it's all a timing thing as well.
Yeah.
So that's the reason.
Yeah, and when I did put some seeds in pots as well, not knowing if this would work, and a couple didn't germinate, so then I could fill in the
Yep.
spots as well that didn't work. So, and I could see why that wouldn't work for tomatoes, because you need
Yeah.
the warmth to get them going. So it just so happened that
Exactly.
the broccoli and the cauliflower had the environment it needed to direct sow.
Yeah, and look, another thing too is if you've got an option to take up a diary of some sort and write things
Yeah.
down, that's a great way of doing it. Now, you've shown me your broccoli.
Yeah.
I'd like to show you mine at
Well,
another
yours,
day.
I'm very late to the party with mine. I was a couple of months late. So that's only like a month or so
Yeah,
old, those ones
yeah,
in there. But I should have started a lot earlier, but all over the place.
yeah. Well, my broccoli would be probably 6 times as tall as yours
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and that's
Yours
because
is looking
I I,
fabulous.
I grew it in a controlled environment. Excuse me, and I'm also using a new fertilizer that's coming out soon. So I'm experimenting with that as well, giving that a bit of a go. So there's lots of things that you can change.
Yeah.
Change up, not just great composted soil, but liquid feeds sometimes are really effective on plants as well.
Yeah, what are they called? Now I've forgotten it, but I've tried a new one as well, and it acts as like a carbohydrate for the plant, and then I've got a seaweed one as well. So
Yep.
I'm having a little play around. Dynamic soil, I think they're called, but yeah, it's just trying to find that combination. It's just playing and experimenting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, I'm using a fish emulsion at the moment,
Oh yeah,
that's not a Charlie carp.
no, yeah,
And this is going to, well, if this guy who's a bit eccentric can pull this off, it's going to be a brilliant product, because he's using all the fish from the deep
yeah,
sea,
okay,
from the Bass Strait and the Southern Ocean and all that. So these are totally different type of fish. There's no heavy metals in the food on these particular fish.
mm,
And he's had it all tested by Mary Cole from AgPath, everything is set out in it, but it's only available, in a couple of places down here on the Mornington Peninsula.
yeah,
But
okay,
if it works, we can get him into rice yet.
yeah, yes,
Excuse me.
yes.
Yep.
Very good. Okay, Jess just said, what's the earliest we can plant tomato seeds? And Jess, you'll love what Rick. I just said Rick. That's your husband's name. Keith has said at the start about being in the greenhouse. It can be all year round potentially. But
Yep.
when should we be doing them if we don't have the greenhouse?
If you don't have a greenhouse, you'd want to be planting them inside
Yeah.
in the house in August.
Yeah.
And follow the moon calendar for the growing days. What you've got to provide for tomato seeds is a warm soil environment. And I've seen people who use the old hot water storage systems, for your hot water, big electric ones or gas ones.
Yeah.
If you go and stick the tray on top of those, you're getting that heat transference from the hot water service, and the seeds will germinate really quickly. And even if it's in a dark environment, doesn't matter. All you need to do is provide the heat to start off with, and then you can bring those inside and stick them in a window environment where they're getting sunlight, so that they can then start producing the true leaves. So a warm environment to start them off. That's it.
Beautiful.
And August.
And Jess, you just jumped on, but we spoke about how you guys are going to be selling greenhouses. Rick's making them, and that's exciting for our area. Well, you deliver so far around, so that's
Great.
exciting. Now we've nearly been on here for an hour,
Yep.
and we. But my last quick question is about sweet potatoes and making slips, because I know if you have one inside and you put it in a glass, you're going to get slips if it's in water. But if you've already planted it and the plant's just gone crazy, can you make slips from the sweet potato plant?
Yes, you can. You can do that.
Because I don't think anything's happening. It just looks like a lot of plant, but I don't think much is going on.
Oh, you'd be surprised. There's an awful lot going on in that bed, love. Believe me.
So are they growing underneath the soil?
Absolutely.
Right.
So
how do you know when they're ready?
You wait until the actual plant dies back. So it's exactly the same as you do for potato.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
So just let it be. So should I try and make any slips from that?
Well, you could, but I wouldn't.
Okay.
And the reason I wouldn't do that is that I see a lot of people who try to economise, and they take one potato and they wait for the eyes to develop on the potato, and then they cut them
Oh
up.
yeah,
You know,
I've heard you say this. Yeah.
and you're depleting the energy of
Yeah.
those particular plants. So you're setting them back. That's the first negative thing. But the other negative thing that you can do is by slicing them open, you're exposing that surface area of that cut
Yeah.
to soil bacteria that can actually get in there and destroy the actual tuber.
Okay.
I've known places, and my nephew in Tasmania has done this. He's actually cut the potatoes up, and then he's applied cement or concrete
Yeah.
over the base of them
I've
and let it
heard you say
dry.
that. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Don't go to the
Just buy
effort.
some.
Let it
They're not
be.
that expensive.
Okay. So that bed looks good. So just wait for
Let them.
the plant to die
Yep.
off.
Yep. Just give them a feed, a regular
Okay,
feed.
perfect. Well, fertilising's on my to-do list for
Great.
today. Certified organic, of
Yep.
course. All right, that's an hour of questions. You've like just
Good.
ambushed you with
No
questions. So thanks everyone for
problems.
giving questions. And Keith, we adore you. I say it every time, but like this little community, most of us are new to gardening, and there are some experienced people in this community as well. But like, we just thank you for sharing your knowledge.
It's an
Like,
absolute pleasure, Joe. It's so nice talking with you and sharing the knowledge that someone else has shared with me. That's what it's all about, darling.
we'll
Okay.
appreciate you, and we'll wait till the next one. But I'll put this up as a replay anyway.
Beautiful.
Thanks everyone for
Fantastic.
joining in live, and we'll post this replay. Thanks so much, Keith.
Okay, no.
Okay,
See you.
bye.
Bye.